It's going to be the Sacramento Kings tonight, 39, 24-1. That is no fluke. That is hard work. And that is you guys coming in here being the sharpest chat I know, bringing winners, bringing the energy. Also, Squad Ride 1, Providence, great. Fuck me. They win games, they cover games. It's fucking annoying. Mikey Over's coming on. Might have changed the odds. Maybe that'll change everything. Maybe I'll be a Providence guy. Maryland out to a fat lead. They have 75 votes already. And we're going to absolutely attack the college basketball card today. Winners only. All right, so we're Mormons tonight. We're going to be soaking with our winnings, okay? And we're 42, 24-1 in squad rides. Dwayne Wade alley-ooping it left and right every fucking day. Let's go BYU. We're soaking in the winnings. It starts tonight with Manhattan, +5. The Jaspers, they get it done at home for the squad ride. Let's end the best fucking week we've had on this goddamn show so far, all right? Why not us?
There we go.
+115. Boom. You know why? Because I trust the squad ride, and that shit prints.
Back and alive after a pretty solid day yesterday. How are we doing, John?
Oh, you said alive like you survived something, like it was not good.
No, just living. I mean, I did survive through going to class in a monsoon here. It's an absolute hurricane. Got like 20 pounds of water weight just walking 10 minutes down the road, but
nice.
Survived that a little bit, but definitely was not much surviving last night. That was a fun night last night. Shout out if we anybody who tailed some prize picks. We had a legacy night. And yeah, Mississippi State team total. That was huge. First time all conference season. Legacy. How was your night betting last night, John?
Not ideal, not great. When you're not a flat better, even if you go, 5-5, 6-6, if you lose the big ones, it's not good. And I went 3 units on Seton Hall and 2 units on the Oklahoma City Thunder. So was not a good night for me.
Yeah, I can't blame you. I was with you on Seton Hall a little bit. Couldn't get myself to push the button, but I was with it. Them and Arkansas, I guess, were really the only 2 bad spots of the night for us, I guess. Otherwise, it was pretty good. But we have a decent slate today. Definitely want to touch on not just some CBB, but we'll head to the ice and see if you have anything of the association as well.
Sure.
Use the right term this time. But there were some pretty good games last night. I don't know if you got to catch any. I know you're not as maybe tapped into watching all of these games. I don't know if you can stomach them all, but one of them, Boise State, absolute legacy from the boys last night. I know some of us in chat were riding Boise State, Max Rice, absolute Himothy performance. Dude did some unreal things. Him and Linus Omark, stars of the night last night. Absolute incredible performances from them both. So much legacy all over the court, all over the ice. We had some big wins, some big stuff last night.
Yeah, no, I didn't know if you were talking about college basketball or talking about hockey, but yeah, the Bruins Flames for me was one of the games. When I wake up in the morning to pee, the first thing I usually check is hockey. And and I got to give a shout out to Furl in the chat. He's a Bruins fan. He said Bruins 4-3. And as much as I wanted to bet the Flames, I think you ended up going with the Flames team total. Yeah. And because of that prize pick square, which was a great look and honestly insane if it didn't hit, because I think the Flames outshot the Bruins at one point, like 37-9 or something.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, wild night, good night. I didn't touch Arkansas. It just had a weird feeling because Tennessee had been a little shaky as of late. And you just get that vibe. A team is like too sharp. But yeah, I got duped elsewhere plenty enough. And especially the NBA, I think at this point going into March, I might forget about the league entirely for the month of March.
There you go. That's the kind of heart that we need. That's the kind of heart that we need. But we have just an hour-long show today, so a little shorter. So I do want to jump right in it. Do probably want to start a little bit with the ice so we can kind of finish up and wrap up with college basketball. So I'll let you kind of take the first hit here, and I'll pull up the splits while we're talking. What are we looking at on the ice?
First game I'm looking at is the Rangers and the Flyers. And most people probably know, if they know me, that I am a Rangers fan. I posted a video yesterday on Twitter with my thoughts about the Patrick Kane trade. It's great, but expectation-wise, I don't think that we advanced that much to get past the Hurricanes or the Bruins. But tonight is kind of an interesting spot. So it's that number for a heavy favorite where it's the concern meter where when they're 225 ish, give or take, heavy betting one way, but the line's not jumping because trust me, these lines in hockey, we've seen it. They'll move 40, 50 cents. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if there's kind of some resistance, it makes us want to lean the dog. I don't know if I can do it with the Flyers here at home. I did see the total. It looks like it opened 6.5, if that's accurate, down to 6. But if I had to make a play on this game, I'd probably go with the Flyers on the puck line. That's about it. I think Tortorella is the Flyers coach. Maybe, he used to coach the Rangers, maybe a little, a little revenge spot there, a little grumpy coach angle, if you wanted to play that narrative.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at kind of the same thing. Could have done without probably the little move, even though it puts it up in kind of the range that we look at for these +1.5s. But my only question is, because I know we're trying to find the spot with this Rangers team kind of making all the trades. Is it now or is it too soon? Do we want to wait until they get the whole, class of guys in there? Because we're not seeing Patty Kane tonight, I assume, right?
Right.
So, I mean, I was having a debate of whether now is the right time to kind of jump in and fade them or if we should wait for them to have the full cast, including him.
It's a really good question. Even though they don't have him, they've still got that hype. So also the spot in Philly, like I think Philly just plays the Rangers really tough, especially since Philly's such a shit team. And again, with the Tortorella angle, but I don't know. See, the problem with the Rangers is they were the hottest team in the league for like 2 weeks. And then they cooled off, everything, what goes up must come down unless you're the Boston Bruins. So this is really the reason I have a tough time fading them, is because they had a 4-game losing streak and then snapped it against the Kings. So I'm just wondering, are they getting out of that rut and maybe going to, kind of level out, maybe win 2, lose 2 type of thing. And I'm just not that interested in trying to time it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair take. So I'm kind of with you there. I'm a little torn on what to do with this game tonight, but would certainly have to lean Flyers if anything. I do want to hear your thoughts on this Devils game because it seems like a pretty popular one today. I figure you have a side here that you like.
Yeah. We in my stream, we came out of this, quite a few guys in there and the guy I had on. He doesn't believe in the Avalanche quite as much, and I agree. And it's mainly because of Georgiev. But he's been proving me wrong. I mean, he's had some pretty good performances lately. We'll see what happens when he gets to the playoffs. I like the Devils here. It's a small plus price. I don't necessarily even think the line is that weird. I think it's probably the right line. I mean, the Devils are one of, if not the best road team in the NHL. 21-4-2. I think that's the record I'm seeing. Both teams have been hot in their last 10. I just think this number is probably going to attract your average bettor to take the Avalanche, but I'm not even really trying to, fade the public or anything in this spot. I just think I like the Devils here.
I'm shocked to hear that.
Really? You like the Avalanche?
I kind of do like the Avs.
Well, it's cool. I think it makes better content when we're not on the same side. So what's the reason you like them?
Well, I mean, for one, you have the hype around the Devils as well, and they're coming off of a massive 7-0 shutout win against the Flyers, so I guess we're kind of looking at on the other side there. And you have a 4-string goalie who, prior to this morning, I had never heard of starting for the Avs, so it's not even Georgiev. So I thought this line was a little enticing to get the Devils at plus money is where they're sitting at now, around plus 100. That was kind of my thoughts there.
You can't honestly, though, you can't make – can you make the Avalanche plus money at home against a team like the Devils? It's one thing if they're playing the Bruins. I get what you're saying, though, and honestly, yeah. I'll be honest, I didn't know the 4th-string goalie thing. That does give me a little apprehension here. But, they have been unbelievable the last – they've won 6 in a row, 7 out of 8, and they're covering puck lines left and right. Well, I guess except to Edmonton, but I don't know. I guess that you bring up a pretty good point, though. If the 4th-string goalie's in, then I don't like it as much.
Yeah, it's fair. It's definitely not one of my stronger ones because it's like one of those top teams where how sharp can they really be? In reality, they're not sharp, but you can't really put them at underdogs at home against the Devils, even with or without whoever they have added. I don't think Timo's playing tonight, somebody said. But it's a tricky one. It's not one of my stronger ones, I'll say that.
You want to hear something remarkable? I remember the last time these teams played, it was in New Jersey, and I hit Vanek on a shutout. because I think you and I were probably messaging heavily because this was a total that was like 6.5 or something, and it was the most public over of the night. And so it finished 1-0 final. So maybe you could also think too, the Avalanche coming out, remember being shut out in New Jersey and are probably going to want to get on the board this time around.
Yeah, I can certainly get with that there. Another game that's, I guess, up here that I have kind of had my eye on, probably stronger than any of the others, this Leafs-Oilers game.
Yeah.
It really intrigues me. I want to hear what you have to say here because I am debating being an Oiler tonight.
I think so too, man. God, the Leafs, I always think about a team mid-season. I've got my preseason picks to win it all, and now I start thinking about a team mid-season. And I got to tell you, I just have the Leafs on the top of my mind. There's a guy that I spoke with, had made a pretty good pitch for the Dallas Stars. The Leafs, though, I can just never really, I don't know, fully get on board with. But I think this is a pretty big game for them. It's a statement game for them. Everybody in Canada outside of Toronto knows they're soft. So I feel like, I don't think the line is wrong. But I think it would be the contrarian play to take the Oilers here, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it certainly would. I mean, the Leafs have been pretty well, I guess, as of late. I know they slipped up against the Blackhawks, but other than that, they've won 5 of their last 6.
Yeah.
Oilers haven't been necessarily – you can't really call them cold because it hasn't been an extended streak, but they are coming off of 2 – I mean, you can't really call losing to the Bruins at home an embarrassing performance, but when they're in the pretty sharp spot, it's a kind of a similar spot against the Bruins. They lost that one, and then they had an embarrassing loss to CBJ right before that. So – not particularly impressive in the past week. So I would be willing to take him here. It's probably one I haven't looked at confirmed goalies here, so I want to be sure that we're not getting anything crazy. But regardless, it's either going to be Skinner or Campbell, who have both been ass. So I have really no questions there. But
I know you see that handle on the under in this game, and I know we've talked about this, but the most obvious over of the NHL slate, I haven't necessarily been fading, but I've been keeping mental notes, and I think they've been hitting more than often than not. I am considering an underplay in this game.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. It's just I don't know. I like the Oilers more, and that might be sacrificing. Some under for an Oilers win. Not they can't win, but
you should take the plus price then.
Yeah, and I do see it. It did move up to 7 a lot of places now too, which I mean, I've seen a lot of these 7 totals. The Panthers Lightning game is a pretty accurate representation of that. They haven't been going over much recently. So if we get another one like that, I wouldn't be particularly shocked, especially when we hear it all day.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that'd be one of those. Actually, both of these games we just talked about, I'd be curious to see the Pickett data on the total in this game and then the Avs Devils.
That would be an interesting one. I can look at that. Look at that while we're still talking here. But anything else that's catching your eye on this board?
Yeah, the only other one, it's a short board, but there are 3 really good games. The Hurricanes and the Knights. This is kind of one of those I don't have a great read on. I'm seeing the total open 5.5 and it's up to 6. I think I could see this being a really ugly, tough game, hard-fought game. I could be way off on there, and that's why the money's on the over. But I would actually lean under there. Oh, it looks actually the splits are interesting. The splits are what I'd want to see as an under better. So if it's at 5.5 and still 5.5, that would be my play in this game. But I see on covers that it opened to 6, but maybe that could just be at a handful of books. I lean the under. I don't have a side I like in that game. And then the Capitals Ducks, I wouldn't hate a shot on the Ducks tonight, but some people had mentioned this is a big desperation game for the Capitals. They've been really bad lately. They need a win. I would go over in this game, and that's probably my favorite play of the night. The over. I'd be curious to hear what Fruity thinks, but the over in the Ducks-Capitals game.
I can get behind that. That's an interesting one. I hate playing the desperate angle, but when you talk about a team, I guess, winning out and a team kind of altering the way that they play, especially against a team that is very bad defensively and is going to give up a lot of shots, everybody knows that. I don't hate to look at that over. Not at all. I'm trying to look at what they've done pretty recently here. They've been scoring a lot of goals, kind of an over machines. The first game was 4-2 in the Ducks' favor about a week ago, a little more than a week ago. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a couple more goals here. And, book it with Vegas. Yeah, a little bit. They're trying.
Well, I like to. The Ducks just got back from a 4-game road trip. They had their first game against the Blackhawks, so that was a game that stayed under.
Yeah,
If anything, I don't like taking the over in the first game back for a long road trip, but the second game, though, I'd be okay with it.
I'm fine with that. I can get behind that. And I don't mind that Canes over either. That's enticing. Or under either.
Yeah, and shame on us. I don't know if you played this, but we saw a 5 total in the NHL in some places last night with that Wild Islanders game. Did you
Really?
see that?
I didn't see that it got down that far. That's interesting.
Yep. And so one of the things we talked about doing was when you think an under is going to play, you should play like exact score both ways, 2-1 or 3-2.
Yep.
If you like it under 5, because the odds are going to be so good there. And it came through that time. But it says Lars Fruity said Ellers to the Avs. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's all I got on the hockey slate tonight.
Yeah, all right, we move, and we'll probably circle back if we have time at the end, but do want to make sure we get to a lot of stuff here. College basketball. Let's take a quick pivot. We can talk about a couple of futures first, before we get deep into the board, because I want to know from somebody who is, I don't want to say you're primarily like at this point invested in futures, but you're betting with the long term kind of in mind, I guess, if that's an accurate way to put it, throughout March. What teams are catching your eye, whether it's just value wise, you look at teams, you love how they play, you just want to root for them. Overall, like futures outlook, what do we have?
So first, let me at least explain myself so people understand. I have a decent resume, despite not being a diehard college basketball fan and watching a lot of games. Hit Baylor when they beat Gonzaga. I hit Virginia when they beat, I believe, Texas Tech. And what I like to do is I pay attention towards the second half of the season, getting into the tournaments and conference tournaments. And I like to find teams that it's almost like betting golf for me in the futures market. You just kind of get a hunch. You look at a team and you see a team like when push comes to shove, like that team is going to be a problem. And I got to tell you, this is no bias. The team that I identified as being the biggest problem is still TCU. I think TCU, when in a tournament style field, that is just a team that I don't want to play. So I've got 3 futures right now. I've got UCLA kind of as my top team. And then I've got Marquette and I've got TCU. Marquette's offense, I think, when they get going, they're going to wear you out and they're going to be a tough team to play. UCLA, I got to be honest, I'm not overly confident about with those, teams at the top. I don't know that I made the right selection. The only other team that I was really considering adding, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts about this. Actually, there are 2. Were Creighton and Indiana. Now, I know I'm buying as high as you possibly can, which you don't really suggest. That's not expert betting advice. But Indiana's a team that I watched in the beginning of the year, and I was like, oof, they're not good. But they seem to be figuring some things out. Trace Jackson seems to be really good. And despite just getting their ass kicked to Iowa, that was like the ultimate letdown spot after sweeping Purdue, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not really putting too much stock into that. And then Creighton, the time to buy on them was when their big guy was out for a little bit. And I don't know what their odds were, but they were pretty high. They're another team that I watch, and I just say to myself, I don't think I want to play this team in a tournament. So, I mean, what do you think to add to my arsenal already of tickets? Do you like either of those, or is there somebody else I'm not talking about?
I think you should be a little more confident in UCLA. I have a team like that. I mean, I have some Houston, Alabama stuff from the beginning of the season, or Houston preseason, and then Alabama was, I think, my first in-season future that I placed. But UCLA is honestly, both for the value and for the team, the one that I feel best about, because they're kind of the team when you talk about Bama, you talk about Houston, you talk about Kansas, who's playing really well now, which are all the 3 teams ahead of them in odds. UCLA is the team that nobody really wants to talk about because they're not flashy. They play good defense. Their offense isn't going to blow you away.
Good point.
They're winning games. And I think this is the team that's going to kind of sneak up on everybody come March Madness, especially if they get a really good draw against a team. I mean, realistically, they're probably going to be a pretty popular upset pick when you get to the second round against what the 8 or 9 seed, or even if they slip to the 2 line, whatever the 7-10 is that comes out, because they're not flashy. They don't impress anybody. But I really like that team. Really like that team a lot. So I would feel better about that one. As far as Indiana, I don't want to say I'm out on them, but I'm very concerned, not just from them kind of tailing off here and losing this game. I know they were playing better up until last night, but they got trounced. And that showed me a lot about them playing up-tempo teams, because first time around when they played Iowa, they just let them run them out of the gym. They kind of tried to beat them at their own game, just running up and down the court, playing an up-tempo team like an Iowa, even like a TCU type team. So if they face that in the tournament, they're screwed, because, I mean, they haven't beat that all season. So that's what really worries me about them. But, I mean, Creighton, I think it's another team that's kind of getting slept on. I know they've slipped up a little bit too. Lost against Nova on the road. Tough place to play. But I feel a little better about them than Indiana. I'll say that. I like their team makeup a little bit better. They've got a little bit of tournament experience, even if it's for guys like Baylor Sharman, who were there for one game, and they were awful that game. South Dakota State was. So I like them a little better. Indiana scares me. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah. You know who does scare me too is Kansas, unfortunately. And you being a Big 12 guy, I'm not sure if you really if you're as fearful of them. That's a team I've already decided I'm not going to take a future on. So I'm just going to, I'm going to die with Kansas here. But no, I mean, you've got some good points. And there's another team I saw somebody mention in the chat. I'm not taking Miami at 55-1. I think Miami is a good team, but if the odds makers really thought Miami was a threat, especially after last year, I'm pretty sure, and this was last year when they upset Auburn. Did that happen? Yeah, they were a pretty big dog, right?
Yeah.
7.5, 8-point dogs. So I mean, it's not like they would be this new team to all of a sudden just come into the tournament the first time. 55-1 is too high for a team like Miami. That's been as good as they are. So I feel like something in the algorithm is just not really valuing them that much.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that price, it looks really high, and I think it's high for a reason, especially when they keep burning sharp bettors, and they're the public darling after all of these games, and they're sitting at a very juicy price to win it all. So I think I'm pretty out on them too. I think they'll be all right. It's not to say I think they're going to get blown out first round or anything, but it's going to be tough. I will say this isn't necessarily outright winners, and I'm not just trying to slurp at the Big 12, but I would look for some of these middle pack teams. Like if you remember an Iowa State team like last year who was pretty mid, I guess you can say. Their offense was even worse, impressed nobody. I don't think people realize yet how good the Big 12 is, because when we talk about Iowa State playing a team, I don't even know who I can compare to match up, but TCU last year is a good example too. They were a good team. They went to match up against a team at Seton Hall who, I mean, really had no outstanding strengths. They're just kind of a middle of the pack team that tried to be physical. They got blown out. And then you had Iowa State making runs. They won 2 games, I believe, in the tourney, got to the Sweet 16 with a team who was anemic offensively all year, and their defense suffocated both teams they played. So I think one of these teams in the Big 12 that's kind of struggling around the middle pack, which Iowa State, I mean, this year could be one of them. Kansas State also, they're a little better, but they haven't looked particularly impressive of late. Watch out for them to win a couple games. Take a little Sweet 16, maybe Elite 8 type future on them. I wouldn't hate that.
Like that. I do have to ask, what do you think about Villanova? They're 300-1. I don't even know, are they making it into the tournament? But after last night, man, a team that makes all their free throws on the road, they get my respect.
Oh yeah. I mean, they look great. I'm not 100% certain on their tourney outlook. Mm-hmm. I think it may depend on them winning a couple games in the conference tournament. That's probably the only way they get in. But if they do get in, they're one of those teams. I think a team has won. I don't know if this ended last year, but a team who played in the first 4 has won a game every year or something like that. They would be the team that I would certainly be scared for if they sneak in kind of an 11 seed play-in game, something like that. But I don't know necessarily if they have the guns to kind of win a couple games in a neutral site in the Big East tournament to make it in, but they do.
Plus 650 to win the Big East tournament.
That's a team I would be scared of.
Yeah.
I'm not too convinced of them playing. I mean, not on the road, but neutral site away from home, because that's where they've gotten a couple of their really, really big wins.
Okay, gotcha.
So I'll lead them there. They're impressing me though down the stretch. And yeah, there's chat saying they have to win the Big East tournament. So we'll see on them. I think that tournament's going to be madness. So it's not me saying that they have no shot. But
Yeah, right.
that would be crazy. I am kind of interested on your thoughts of a couple of these teams that are surging a little bit, like a Kentucky maybe.
Oh God. Yeah. I had probably one of the best bets of the weekend with Auburn money line against Kentucky. That was cool. So I don't know what to think about Kentucky. That's actually a team where I feel like I'm pretty good. You know, like being like a judge of character. It's like when you watch a team and you get an idea with players, teams, and all sports, you're like, they got it or they don't type of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I watched Kentucky earlier in the year and I was just like, man, they're just not good this year. That was probably early February, maybe. And, you know, fast forward 3-4 weeks and I think I'm totally wrong. I think they actually might have had talent and now they're figuring it out. I never liked that Wheeler point guard player.
Oh, no.
And I'm pretty sure, I don't know if I saw on Twitter or someone mentioned it to me on Twitter, but he's been coming off the bench or he's playing less and they've
been not playing.
He's not playing at all. And they've been much better since then.
Yeah.
I thought that guy was fucking terrible. And I remember it because I think they lost the first round last year to that weird small St. Peter's or some small
St. Peter's.
Yeah. And I remember watching that game and I was just thinking like, I think he's the worst player on the court. Am I taking crazy pills? How is this guy starting point guard for Kentucky? So I don't know. I think they do scare me. I mean, do they scare you? I'm not going to, they're not a team I'm going to bet, but yeah, I don't want my team that I am invested in to play them.
Yeah. I mean, when I'm going to look at kind of the SEC tournament bracket, when that comes out, I can almost guarantee you I'm going to be taking Kentucky to win that tournament. I can almost guarantee you that. No matter the price.
Wait. The SEC tournament or the I'm sorry.
SEC tournament.
Oh, they don't have odds yet on that?
I don't know if they do because I think they don't release odds until the bracket comes out, right?
They don't. I don't see I see tournament odds for certain tournaments.
Yeah, tournament odds definitely up. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much. I mean, I'm not going to say they're going to have a cakewalk to play Alabama or anything, and might not even because of however the draw works out or whatever. But you got them, who that's going to be a big matchup. You got Texas A&M, who I think is a beatable team, who they match up really, really well with. You got Tennessee, who, I mean, they came off a big win last night, but they just lost their only shot creator probably for the season. I haven't seen the injury news, but I can only assume that was a season-ending injury.
For who?
Zakai Ziegler, their star guard. So he's non-contact knee injury, probably done, I would assume. But the rest of the teams, I mean, the SEC just don't scare me whatsoever. Missouri can get hot, absolutely. Auburn, been frauds all year. I've beat that drum since the beginning of the season. Miss State has been playing better, sure, but they don't really scare me against a Kentucky team that much, especially, I mean, after the first game that they just played, what was it, a week or so ago? A couple weeks ago? Super close game on the road. Kentucky ran it up on them for a bit, and it came close. So I don't know. They're a team that's getting hot, and whether they do something in the tournament, get the right draw or not, I think they win some games in that SEC tournament and make some noise.
I have no problem with that bet at all. Also, I see Kentucky is 10-1 to make the Final Four. As a knowledgeable college basketball fan, do you kind of discredit SEC basketball like outside of Kentucky? I mean, anytime there's an SEC game on, it's kind of like the old school SEC football where it's like it was just ugly. It was a lot of defense, not really how it is now. Yeah. But I have a hard time watching like South Carolina and Mississippi State, and I even watched South Carolina when Frank Martin was their coach in Madison Square Garden. I forget who they played. Maybe even played Florida. I don't know who. I forget who, but it was ugly. It's a tough. I mean, they just play ugly basketball. Do you like that conference at all? Do you value them?
Not particularly. I mean, especially this year. Like, I think Alabama is class of, I guess, college basketball. You could say they're one of the 2-3 teams.
True.
Obviously, Brandon Miller, one of the best players in the conference, or best players in all of college basketball. But other than that, I mean, Tennessee is a team who's somewhat rolled through that conference, and they're not impressive on a game-to-game basis. Texas A&M, I like them too, but they're kind of average. I mean, my thing is I'm not impressed by too many teams to say that, and I think the bottom of the SEC is probably as bad as any power conference. Like, I mean, you put Texas Tech, that's another conversation. Texas Tech, I'm not trying to say they should be in the tournament, but if they were playing like this and playing healthy all season, they would 100% be in the tournament. And you put them in the SEC, they're probably right below all the ranked teams. They're probably sitting fifth in that conference.
Yeah, see, I don't think that's crazy to say.
Yeah, at the
drop
least.
off is bad.
At the least. But yeah, there's a big drop off for sure. So I mean, I'm not a big SEC buyer.
The SEC needs Will Wade. That's funny. Yeah, and then my last question for you, in terms of this future market, is St. Mary's getting too much respect at 35-1?
Yeah, I think so. A little bit. I think St. Mary's is good. And the problem for me is they're very matchup dependent because they're a team. Like if they play another team that is a similar brand of basketball or like drastically different, which sounds crazy to say, but if they play a team like I don't want to say same skill level, but like a Miss State type team who's going to ground and pound and play low and slow and is bigger and more physical than them, they're going to struggle a little bit. Or if they play a team like a TCU who's like drastically different and is going to run and force them to speed up, they're going to have trouble. They just need like a perfectly mid matchup style wise for them. So like they're skating through a lot of these games in the West Coast Conference because they suck. That conference is terrible, but beating a lot of these lower tier teams. And I know they beat the Zags at home, which is impressive at the time, but they got worked on the return game back, which I know it's Mark Few. I know it's the Zags, most talented team in the conference by far, but
yeah,
no pulse.
Thought it was crazy to see them ahead of Creighton, Indiana, and Kentucky.
Yeah, I think they got an initial boost there after the Gonzaga win, and they probably should have dropped a little further since then.
Right,
so,
right.
I'm kind of out on them.
Fair enough.
That was good. I want to get into the board a little bit here, see if there's anything you like before we wrap up here in about 2025. Is there anything that stands out to you on first look for this? I know we're seeing some Irish comments in the chat.
Yeah, I know we are too, and I am a Notre Dame fan. They're bad. That's another team that I've watched, and it's funny. One of my largest wagers of the season, I didn't even watch Notre Dame once, but I saw the line at home against Michigan State. Do you remember that? I think they were. It was fishy as fuck, and that was great. I think that was like a 5-unit play for me, but I've given a little bit back, and I've just decided that I don't think the Irish are good. Although they did cover against UNC at home. I guess they can be still a little pesky. Maybe they're fighting for Mike Bray,
Mike Bray's last home game.
Yeah, that's the narrative. And I'll be honest with you, it doesn't take – you don't have to be that smart to say that something's up with this line, right?
Yeah.
4 to 3.5 for a team like Pitt against Notre Dame, like that's short. So I don't know what to do. I mean, Notre Dame's 10-8 at home. 5-13 ATS. My contrarian brain wants to pull the trigger on Notre Dame as my first bet of the day. But I'm trying to pump the brakes too at the same time because I don't want to get too carried away. And also remember the last week or so, these spots have kind of cooled off a little bit.
Yeah.
And one thing I am seeing we are getting a little bit baited with the home dogs. So especially a little bit larger home dogs, but this is just that number. I don't know. It scares me. Last minute I jumped off of Ole Miss, and I'm getting that same vibe here of like, I want to take Notre Dame, but I think at the end of the day, I'm just going to be like, why did you do that? Pitt is such a better team. So I don't know. I mean, talk me into it. Am I being soft?
No, I can't blame you. I think there's definitely a lot of very obvious things going on with Notre Dame, but I think the other obvious thing too here, if Pitt wins this game, somebody said in the chat, they clinch a share of the ACC title with a game at Miami looming on Saturday to determine it.
Look ahead? Is that what you're telling me?
I
love a good look ahead spot.
I think this is exactly what it is.
Oh, boy. I mean, that could be enough to get me on board. And let me ask you this. Between these two games and suspicious lines, if you had to play either Ohio State or Notre Dame, which one are you playing?
Notre Dame.
Okay, fair. I think I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't said I've gotten hurt by Ohio State because I haven't been jumping on them like a lot of other people, maybe yourself included. But I think the time is passed on them a little bit. They got their win. I'm not trying to hop in necessarily. I'm not going to take Maryland either because I think like they're genuinely just not the same team on the road, which is a thing, and it's not even just that the line is suspicious. So I think Ohio State's the side there, but I'm not going to get involved. but I will get involved. I will buy into the Mike Bray's last home game narrative and the look ahead spot for a massive, probably the biggest game, regular season game in Pitt's history, or recent history, in the last handful of seasons post Jamie Dixon. So I'm cool with that. Give me the Irish.
I like it. I'm sold. I didn't know about that's why I love the show and hearing shit like that. I didn't know about the look ahead spot. And that's, especially in college sports, football and basketball, that's something I really like to take advantage of if a few other things align. So, yeah, I think I'm in. I'm sold. I'm in on the Irish. And then I have to obviously ask you, I can't fade Providence at home. Are you going to fade Providence at home? Okay, I'm glad you're shaking your head that way.
Yeah, I'm not doing it. No chance.
Good.
I don't even know, I'm not saying this to just be a dick, but I mean, what is making you consider fading Providence at home?
What's the what?
What's making you consider fading them at home?
Well, I think the line's short, but it's not the first time I've said this, and Providence just does what they do, and they win and they cover, and you regret fading them. So I think I've done it 3 times, and that's enough for me. So I'm going to pack it up and wait till they start playing on neutral courts.
Yeah, fair enough. And yes, I'm not even going to say your name, but we talked about this with Krabs yesterday, and I think we have both already placed the bet. I know I have. Take it to go in overtime, which, yes, it has already once this year, but it's so classic. You got to sprinkle.
What are the odds on that?
It was plus 1,200.
Oh my God, that seems kind of low, actually.
I mean, yeah, it did go in the first time. Whenever these top Big East teams play, especially when Providence is involved, it's just worth taking a shot.
It's like a shutout prop in college basketball. Dude, sign me up. You don't have to twist my fucking arm.
Yeah, of course. It's a couple here. I do want to hear, and I'll talk about it too. But we got a massive matchup in Fort Worth, where the boys are going to be at today. Boots on the ground, of course, as always, with Krabs joining us, which is why he's not here today. He's in the air on his way here.
Really?
Texas and TCU.
Krabs is flying out to go to a Texas TCU game?
Well, we're going to I don't want to spoil it. I don't know if it's been said already, but we're going to a couple games the rest of the week.
Oh, okay.
This is the first stop.
Very cool. Listen, I'm just going to tell you straight up, and I'm not trying to just appease you because you're a TCU student, but I have a hard on for the Frogs. All right. I've got a crush on this team, had it in football as well. And I think I told you this, but against Texas Tech, if it wasn't for that line being so trappy, the first thing, sometimes I wake up and it's the first thing I say to myself before anything else. Like yesterday, the first thing I said to myself was, is it Iowa today? And I followed through. Before that, I said, I don't care what the line is. I'm putting 5 units on TCU. Now, they almost blew it, and I stayed off the game entirely because a lot of people I knew and I respected were on Texas Tech, but I wish I would have followed through. So now I'm having that regret, and I want to do it this time. Is it a bad time to do it?
No.
It's not okay. Okay.
Not a bad time to do it. This is a big one. I mean, you can't really say look ahead spot in the Big 12 because every game is kind of like this. But if there ever is one, it's this one. Them seeing Kansas at home on Saturday, which they need to win this game for that game to mean anything as far as Big 12 regular season championship goes. So this is a big one, 100%. I do want to pay attention to the status of Eddie Lampkin, which was I was in the same headspace as you, Texas Tech game. Until last minute, I saw that he wasn't playing, which usually I like to buy into that, but it really worried me because I don't know if you watched last night's game at all with Texas Tech and Kansas, but Ferdoz Imok, their big man, had like 20 boards. The only thing that kept them in that game, he was ridiculous. I was really worried the same thing was going to happen again, but it didn't. And this TCU team, I know everybody got burned on them. They're super public against Kansas. This is almost the exact same scenario with the Texas team that everybody loves too. So I think this is another go back to the similar scenario situation. And this is where TCU kind of picks it up a little bit. So I think this is the spot. I think they get going in the conference tournament. So they need that, and I need to see it.
I also, and I've heard you say this, I think Ollie has said it too, and I maybe I haven't watched them enough, or maybe I did watch them at the wrong time. Shout out to the Chris Beard thing because when he got fired, I did capitalize and I think bet on Texas in that I forget the line or the situation, but they came through. Other than that, I have not been a big Texas fan. I just don't like what I see. Kind of like Oklahoma State. I watch Oklahoma State and I just think this team's, I don't want to say terrible, but whatever's above terrible. I don't think Texas is very good. And I do think TCU is good. And I think they're nasty. And what I like about this game so much is that I watched the Frogs. I didn't take them against Kansas. And I remember seeing the shit all the next day. And you even mentioned, I don't know why people are saying this, but like the disappointing crowd that night, like they were lackluster and they weren't into it. You told me, please watch the game. I put it on. I was cranking my sleepy time tea, but I watched the first half of it. It was ugly. It was really ugly basketball. It's okay. I don't mind ugly basketball.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't tell if the crowd was or was not into it, but I saw people talking about it. So a bad game, the crowd getting shit on. Now this is their next home game since then, right?
Yeah.
If there was, I don't know if there's an alt line, I would take a TCU minus 9.5 alt line. You think I'm kidding? I'm not.
I know you're not kidding. That's why I'm laughing at it because it's awesome.
I think the Frogs win tonight, and I might make it my biggest bet of the college basketball season.
Really?
Really?
I'd love to hear that. I'd love to hear that. And yeah, the crowd thing made no sense. That was probably, I've been here for a couple of years. They've been good for, I guess, the last 2 years. We've had massive games. That was the loudest I've ever heard that stadium. So I don't know where the crowd thing came. Maybe it's the broadcast, maybe it's whatever, but that was the loudest I've ever heard the stadium, the most packed. I've seen the student section, the longest line we've had to wait to get in there. So I don't know where that notion came from, but
yeah,
it's definitely going to be the same way tonight. Rainy day too. Some classes are canceled. People are ready. People are fired up too. So you can forget about any shit you're going to hear about the crowd. They're going to be fired up. They're going to be there. I will say about Texas though, I've been probably I don't like Texas. I hate Texas, respectfully. But I have been the biggest Texas slurper this year because their team, they've really impressed me. I've been really good. For me to take a Texas future as early as I did, both regular season and to win the tournament, I was really impressed because I think this team is really, really good, and they're going to be a team that is going to be really dangerous in March. So I love them. I think they're really good, just not tonight. And yes, Storm Chasers are in attendance after failing last night. They went to Ole Miss. It didn't happen, which weird.
I also don't know why I Don't Hurry said DGen trying to convince everyone. Am I trying to convince? I'm telling you what I'm doing. You don't have to do it. But I missed my opportunity for the Frogs, and I really like them here going back at home after everybody's shitting on the home crowd atmosphere and a poor performance. I really like the spot. You can do whatever you want to do, though. I like TCU, but I just see Texas winning tonight. All right, then bet Texas.
Yeah, go ahead.
Bet Texas.
Go ahead. But we'll be on the Frogs.
Yep. All right, good. I like to hear it.
For sure. I guess we can kind of get into the interesting ones now. And Ale-Hunters, I'll post some props. We'll be doing those too. But don't have to go too far here for a game that piques my interest a little bit. Cal Baptist.
Oh, God.
That a lot of people hate. They're always – I don't want to say they're always in sharp spots, but there's a couple of times with shorter lines that they haven't come through, including very recently too, I think over the weekend. But this line is a little nuts to me. So they're hanging 10.5. They haven't been double-digit favorites at all in conference play, partially because they play so slow, but it's also just because they're not very good. And they're playing UT Rio Grande Valley, who I actually like. They've been wagons, not just this year, but the past couple of years. I've been riding them in certain spots. They're kind of like my, Texas A&M Corpus Christi Junior.
Mm-hmm.
But Cal Baptist they've been bad. They can't score.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at this game, UT Rio Grande, they beat them by 6, I believe. Yeah, 6 at home the first time, and now we're seeing 9.5 to 10.5, a number that, again, they haven't had in all of conference play. And we're looking at I like to incorporate the team totals as well.
Mm-hmm.
A high-scoring game is kind of what it's looking like relatively. They dropped 58 in that first game against Rio Grande Valley, and now we're seeing a team total at 79.5. Which when they are scoring 70 plus, just period. I even put a little move down to get a little cushion on it. Scoring 70 plus, they're 8-3 ATS on the season. And now we're seeing them as a double-digit favorite in conference play, which they haven't been once with them.
Oh, God.
with the nice splits too.
Yeah, sign me up for that one. Something that I've been finding is when a team is getting too many points or giving too many points, rather, when you don't think they should be, they have been hitting, in my opinion. I thought Marquette the other night was a little too many. I thought Virginia Tech last night was too many. Wright State was a good call by you, depending on the number you got. I got 19 and a half. But these teams with large spreads, everything you kind of have to change it up a little bit and see what's working, what's not. And, whether it's the unranked, short favorites that kind of cooled off, that system cooled off. And then I've gotten the short dogs that haven't really come through with Seton Hall last night. I'm noticing some of these big favorites are coming through. So that fits nicely into what I'm looking to target. And I probably wouldn't even notice it if you pointed it out. And you just have a great, insight on the state of Texas college basketball, because you've given me Corpus Christi like 3 times and they hit every time. And yes, I do see they're playing today, so I'd love to hear if you're on them or not. Yeah. But I'm tailing. I'm glad they're tailing.
Yeah. The Texas thing is just kind of on accident, minus Corpus Christi. It just somewhat happens. But I'm not, just to segue to that, I'm not touching Corpus Christi or fading them today. I can't do it. Okay. Texas A&M Commerce is just unfadable at times. They either come out and get killed, or they're just super sharp and then they went outright. So I'm done with them.
All right. Fair enough.
But if you want to talk about, I guess, same conference, because we probably got an equally bad game, probably even worse. Southeastern Louisiana and Houston Baptist is calling my name.
Oh,
calling my name. We're getting nasty.
Prestigious schools.
Yeah, just a little bit. And I know Krabs was kind of not reaching, but he really wanted to take Houston Baptist plus 3.5 because that line is really short. I'll say that, but they're sharp a lot. I can't get myself to do that, but I can get myself. I haven't decided whether I'm going to go full game over or team total over for Houston Christian, but it's going to be one of them. Absolutely. In this first game, it's kind of a similar thing to Cal Baptist, but not really. They put up 59 points in this first game. Houston Christian, I guess they're now called. This is wrong, but they either give up 90 or score 90, especially recently. And very rarely do you see these totals when they're touching kind of 160 plus, especially when it's 162, 163. Very rarely do you see them open that way and move up still, which we're kind of seeing that after the total was in a similar place the first time and went under by 30 points. So now we're seeing a very similar thing. The splits are pretty hilarious too, and kind of insinuating the move. So we're seeing it up, a point, half a point, other places. So Houston Baptist is the line short. They're going to score. There's going to be lots of points in this game, unlike the first game, and I'll be rooting for some baskets for sure.
Yeah, and I love the way you guys use the the other lines within the game to kind of dictate your play and what you think the outcome is going to be, because that's if the average gambler isn't doing that, they should. And your JMU you had recently, I was listening you talk about that. I really loved. I thought that was again another big favorite with too many points, and then you pointed out the team total and the scoring. I like that. Last night, one of my favorite plays was the under in Clemson and Virginia. Clemson was until 61.5. Give me a fucking break. They just put up 90. So this stuff is definitely like other things that people should be looking at before making a play. So, you just sold the shit out of it for me. So Houston Baptist to score tonight.
Oh, yeah. I guess they're Houston Christian now. I don't know. It says it on the screen. Just in case you're trying to find it. Might have trouble finding it on the old name. But, that's what I'm going with. That's what I'm going with. Some bigger games that I guess we haven't touched on yet. Feel free to jump in if you have.
Yeah, I have one. I want to throw it out there before we run out of time or before I forget. I think it's funny. I've been usually looking to fade Davidson most of this year, but this is kind of jumping out to me. Also, respectfully, fuck George Washington. I see they're 8.5 down to 7.5, but right off the bat, that looks like too many points to me. And again, this is what's been working, so I want to lean into. But George Washington has won 3 straight and covered 3 straight. I think that this is a little bit, I guess you could call it a fake sharp spot, a little bit of a trap for the money to come in. And I know Davidson's been good as well, but I mean, what do you think? Is that the right number? An 8.5 opener for Davidson against George Washington?
It does seem a little large considering that George Washington is, I don't want to say necessarily always fake sharp, but they have a lot of sharp, short lines, either way, whatever you want to call it. And they come through, I guess, a decent amount too, especially when they're underdogs. They've been pretty successful. So to see them 8.5 is strange, to say the least. And I haven't been too particularly impressed with Davidson, especially ATS recently. They've had a lot of these similar line spreads and haven't been covering much of them.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's
4-9 at home too.
Yeah, I mean,
yes,
it's definitely interesting. I would assume, I haven't looked at any movement yet, but I can only assume that line's going to get shorter. But that wouldn't necessarily scare me off of that.
No, and it's kind of like what we saw with Arkansas last night. And I think it's okay to go. That's when I think it's okay to go against the line move. Somebody asked about LSU. That was the other game I was going to bring up. This is just how I feel, but I went to LSU. They were one of my favorite plays. Can you remind me when they were just sharp? It was like 1.5 to 2. They were playing Vandy, and they won.
Yeah,
they lost 14 in a row. So that was a really good spot for LSU that I capitalized on. I don't really want to go back to them unless you think there's anything that really screams like LSU today.
Not particularly. I guess the one thing that's on your side, other than LSU just being terrible, I mean, Mizzou is coming off of a spot against Georgia where there was kind of a similar situation. They were Georgia was, I think, +3 around that number, and Mizzou blew them out by 20. So, I mean, I guess if that's your angle to take it, your kind of spot to take it, I wouldn't be mad at it, but I'm not running to take LSU. They're kind of in the same situation pretty much every game. But I'm not going to kill anybody for taking it. I don't mind it.
Sure.
I don't mind it. I do want to get some squad ride going. We got 5 minutes left here. We had to make it pretty quick today. What is your favorite play of the day?
Between hockey and college basketball?
Yeah, I mean both. You can pick one.
Oh, right. We're nominating for the board review. I mean, I'm sorry, for the squad ride. Shameless plug. I would say I like this Capitals Ducks over. Okay. I think this is going to be a high scoring game. And then trying to think of one. I guess you give me yours while I finalize I'm sorry, I didn't do a lot of basketball digging today.
Oh no, we're good.
Focused a lot on golf and hockey. So give me one of yours while I look for mine.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the couple that I have that I like the most would probably be that Houston Christian team total over 79.5. Or no, that's not the number. I need to look at the number.
Can we put TCU in there or no?
We can put TCU in there.
That's my favorite bet.
There we go. TCU-ML. So we got Caps Ducks over, TCU-ML. I'll put Cal Baptist -10.5 in there, even though nobody's going to vote for that, and it's going to soar anyway.
I see everybody in the chat. They knew what my favorite play was, and I didn't even fucking know. I'm like, I don't know what my favorite play is. Everybody's like, it's TCU, you idiot. Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. They're keeping you in line a little bit. Trying to look and make sure I have the right number on Houston Christian. It is 79.
Yes, ML. Don't play the 2.5 and lose.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
They win by 2.
100%.
Yeah.
So here we go. We got the Caps Ducks over 6.5. We'll just keep it to this 4, Josh, so we can go from here.
Okay.
Caps Ducks over 6.5. TCU money line. We got Houston Christian team total over 79.5, and Cal Baptist -10.5. And no, Nikki Gords, TCU was not the squad ride versus Kansas. We left that out of the poll entirely that day.
That comment scared me for a minute.
Yeah.
Like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, we left it out. Which was, that was kind of my doing. So not today.
Smart.
Not today.
Yeah.
Not today. Poll is up. Send some votes. Looks like we got a lot of votes hitting TCU already, which I'm fine with. And make sure that you guys are betting squad ride. We're going to bounce with the team, hit some bets tonight, and open up some pure Shenandoah. Get yourself some gummies. The Jen, you tapped into any of those yet?
No, I'm kind of a bitch. I'm not of a. I've had some bad experiences with consuming THC, so I keep it grounded. You know what I mean? Cigarette and a beer.
Hey, fair enough. Fair enough.
Coward. Yes, I am a
Yeah,
coward.
I mean,
Hey, real
doesn't
quick,
matter.
real quick. Look
Yeah.
at Richmond. Their dog to fave on the road with a 1-10 road record
Dog to fave on the road.
against St. Joe's. Like the splits.
You know, I do have problems with St. Joe's. Not gonna lie, that's right there. I do have problems with St. Joe's. Not a very successful St. Joe's better.
Okay, like on them or against them,
Anything involving them.
like Air Force for you.
Yeah, nobody's Air Force. Let's see. Nobody's there. But
Right.
that's one that I just stay away from. A lot of the A10, pretty much. I'm out.
Okay.
But that's probably the side. I'm looking at that. But yeah, make sure you guys are voting. Send the votes. Send the votes. Send the pure Shenandoah. Do it all. I had they got some muscle balm that I've been using for club baseball. It's been looking good. It's been treating me well. Make sure you're tapped into that, everybody. They got a lot of different products for you to use. So
Is it
you're tapped
CBD?
into those. Hemp.
Oh, hemp. Gotcha. Yeah, I used to try CBD. I didn't know if it was the same thing.
Yeah.
I like it though. Maybe I'll try something if it's not all gummies. Maybe I can handle that.
Of course. Patriots cheated. There you go. Tap into some buzzing berries. And
Buzzing
we
gummies
do have a
straight.
squad
Nice.
ride winner. And it is TCU money line.
Hey!
The Frogs.
Is
It's the
Hammy the
Frogs.
Frogs like the actual TCU chant, or is that just like the Book It community TCU chant?
What?
Hammy the Frogs.
No, that Trent just made that up.
That's fucking great.
Yeah, that's funny though. But
Hammy the Frogs.
here we go. Squad ride. TCU money line going up against Texas tonight. Frogs are going to take down the Horns, and we're all going to be there to watch it. DeGen, appreciate you for coming on, filling in for
course.
Krabs when he's on his way here to see the Frogs take a dub.
Yep.
Let's have some absolute legacy tonight from the Frogs and from all of our bets. Let's have a day. Let's hand it over to Trent so he can craft another parlay. Shout out him. I think he hit the Community Gremlins yesterday, Prize Picks
Nice.
entry.
Nice.
But let's do it again. Let's have some legacy. Let's use a day. Let's have a hell of a Wednesday. Go Frogs.
Take it easy, man. Go Frogs.
Oh, yeah.